Welcome to this session on Center of Gravity Analysis using the Vulnerability Assessment Model, or VAM. This lesson is part of our exploration of Army design methodology. We'll focus on how planners identify what gives a force, friendly or enemy, its power to act, and how that insight shapes operational design. We'll cover the doctrinal roots of the center of gravity concept and examine its key components: critical capabilities, requirements, and vulnerabilities. Through examples and diagrams, you'll see how this analysis helps shape objectives, lines of effort, and decisive points to drive mission success. Let's begin by asking, what is a center of gravity, and why is it essential in planning? The term center of gravity describes the source of power that gives an actor its strength, freedom of action, or will to act. This idea, rooted in Clausewitz and formalized in U.S. doctrine, enables planners to focus their efforts where they matter most. In this example, the CUG is a law enforcement capability designed to dismantle criminal networks. Surrounding it are critical capabilities, actions like investigating and prosecuting. These rely on critical requirements, such as intelligence and multinational agreements. Disrupting any layer weakens the system. That's why understanding and protecting these elements is essential to sound operational planning. To identify a center of gravity, we start by understanding what the adversary is trying to achieve. What is their strategic goal? What end state are they working toward? Once we understand that, we ask what enables them to succeed. What single source of strength, capability, or influence is most essential to achieving their mission? From there, we identify their critical capabilities, what they must do to reach their objectives. Then we determine what entity performs those capabilities. That entity could be the center of gravity. But we must test our thinking. If this element were neutralized or removed, would it stop the adversary from reaching their goal? If the answer is yes, we have likely identified the correct center of gravity. This slide shows the characteristics of a center of gravity. It must be linked to an objective and should allow freedom of action or provide leverage. It can be physical or moral, and it may shift depending on time, space, or phase of the operation. This process is not just about the enemy. We also use it to assess ourselves and our partners. It helps us understand what we must protect and what capabilities we must preserve to accomplish our own goals. A center of gravity only matters if it directly affects the outcome. It is not just something important, it must be decisive in achieving or preventing success. Let's break down the key parts of center of gravity analysis using standard doctrinal language. We begin with the center of gravity. This is the source of power that gives an actor the strength, freedom of action, or will to act. Think of it as the core that holds everything together. It is often described as the hub of all power and movement, the point where efforts should be focused. Next, we identify critical capabilities. These are the key things the actor must do to achieve its objective. These actions are usually described using verbs like defend, maneuver, or govern. To carry out those actions, certain critical requirements must be met. These are the conditions, resources, or systems that support the capabilities. They are the enablers that keep the system running. Finally, we assess critical vulnerabilities. These are the weak or exposed elements within the critical requirements. If these are targeted or disrupted, they can cause major setbacks or even mission failure. This model helps planners focus not just on how an adversary operates, but where they are most vulnerable. By identifying and understanding these relationships, we can target efforts where they will have the greatest impact. Center of gravity analysis helps planners turn understanding into action. It identifies what friendly forces must do to succeed, what must be protected, and where the enemy is most vulnerable. This diagram shows how friendly critical capabilities can be applied directly or indirectly against enemy vulnerabilities. It helps the team identify decisive points, where actions will create the most impact. In planning, this analysis shapes priorities, guides resource allocation, and informs both offensive and protective strategies. It connects our understanding of the environment to how and where we apply force. This diagram shows a center of gravity analysis for an insurgent group. In this case, the center of gravity is the people, specifically the local population and support base. This population gives the insurgents the strength they need to operate, including safe movement, local legitimacy, and freedom of action. To reach their objective of expelling occupying forces and gaining political or territorial control, the group relies on several critical capabilities. These include providing social services, maintaining a base of operations, training and equipping fighters, moving weapons and people, and conducting attacks like ambushes or IED strikes. Each of these capabilities requires specific conditions or resources. For example, they need human networks, physical sanctuaries, funding sources, and transportation systems. These are called critical requirements. Many of those requirements are vulnerable. For instance, smuggling routes may follow predictable terrain. Civilian facilitators can be influenced or exposed. Funding streams can be tracked, and training camps can be targeted through intelligence or surveillance. This type of analysis helps planners understand how the insurgency functions, where it depends on support, and where it is most at risk. That enables actions that disrupt the system without always needing to attack it head-on. This slide shows a center of gravity analysis for a friendly conventional force. The center of gravity, or source of strength, is the Allied Combined Arms Maneuver Force. This force enables the defeat of enemy formations, the control of key terrain, and the protection of civilians. These outcomes support a transition to host nation security forces and post-conflict stability operations. To accomplish this, the force relies on several critical capabilities. These include conducting combined arms maneuver, integrating joint fires and air-ground operations, protecting friendly forces and infrastructure, and sustaining forward-deployed units. Each of these capabilities depends on specific critical requirements. These include movement and maneuver integration, defense in depth, fires coordination, and reliable logistics networks. These requirements are essential to executing maneuver and maintaining operational momentum. However, each requirement presents potential vulnerabilities. For example, key terrain like bridges or roads can become choke points. Communication systems may be disrupted by jamming or cyber attacks. Defensive positions and logistics hubs can be targeted by long-range fires or reconnaissance. If these vulnerabilities are not addressed, the force may lose freedom of action at decisive moments. By analyzing these connections, planners can identify where risk is highest and apply protection measures where they will matter most. This process helps preserve combat power and ensures the force can continue shaping the operational environment in pursuit of its objective. Planners then transition from analysis to action. Once the enemy's center of gravity is identified, we determine how to engage it, either directly or indirectly. In this case, the cog is an armored core. A direct attack might target the core itself, but that's often risky. Instead, an indirect approach targets its supporting systems, command and control, logistics, or air defense. Disrupting these creates opportunities and weakens the enemy's ability to act. This step helps define lines of operation and shapes how we apply combat power to achieve the end state. Objectives align along lines of effort to move the campaign toward the end state. Defeat Newland's defense forces, establish security, and support a legitimate government. Blue arrows represent either lines of operation or lines of effort, depending on whether geography or logic guides sequencing. Along each line, objectives are stacked in time and purpose. Defeating enemy forces requires coordinated combat operations. Civil security focuses on law enforcement and stability tasks. Supporting governance includes enabling legitimate institutions and services. This structure links tactical actions to strategic outcomes, helping commanders synchronize efforts and maintain focus across the campaign. This diagram illustrates how lines of operation and effort are used to integrate and sequence tasks that drive toward the desired end state, which is a safe and stable region. Each row represents a distinct line of operation or line of effort. These lines align with core functions such as civil administration, security, education, infrastructure, and economic development. The approach uses both defeat mechanisms, like isolating or diminishing threats, and stability mechanisms, such as support and influence, to change conditions over time. Along each line, supported objectives are numbered. For example, security operations contribute to diminishing illegal networks, improving civil security, and enabling the use of trained and professional forces. Likewise, education supports objectives like improving literacy, expanding access to services, and developing a professional civil service. These objectives are linked directly to measurable conditions in the operational environment. Desired conditions include increased investment, improved access to basic services, trained local officials, and a population actively engaging with governance structures. Each condition is assigned a letter, with all of them together supporting the overarching end state. This visualization does two things. It maps how tactical and operational activities are logically connected to strategic outcomes, and it enables assessment. By tracking progress across each line and objective, commanders and staff can evaluate whether conditions are trending toward success or if adjustments are needed. This example demonstrates that operational design is not about picking tasks at random. It is about sequencing the right efforts through the right mechanisms to achieve conditions that define success. Let's wrap up with the key resources that support center of gravity analysis. The VM Pocket Guide from RAND provides a practical approach for identifying critical vulnerabilities. Joint Publication 5.0 explains how COG analysis supports joint planning and operational design. ATP 5.0.1, Army Design Methodology, connects COG analysis to problem framing and solution development. And Dr. Joe Strange's work provides the foundational model we've used throughout, linking capabilities, requirements, and vulnerabilities. These references anchor both the doctrine and the practice of operational design.